Why is Bitcoin down today? Well, the primary reason seems to be that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, went on, I guess, CNBC or someplace and said that he made an offhand comment about the United States not buying more Bitcoin for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, so what? So what? Um, Here's how I think about that. First of all, the thesis of Bitcoin was never buy it because the US government's going to buy some and pump your bags. That was never the thesis of Bitcoin. The thesis of Bitcoin is that it's the world's best money and people need money and therefore will eventually gravitate toward a money that preserves their value better than anything else. A money that they can store and hold in their own possession, that is unconfiscatable, money that they can use and walk across a border without having it confiscated like gold with a metal detector or confiscated by thugs at the border of a third world country or something like that. The power of Bitcoin is the fact that no one controls it. The fact that it's amazing, the fact that it's you can transfer a unlimited amount of value to the other side of the world in 10 minutes and absolutely no one can stop you. The fact that you can preserve your purchasing power, and if you own one Bitcoin, you own 1/21 millionth of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist, because there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence, ever in the future of humanity. So if you own one Bitcoin, you have 1/21 millionth of that purchasing power of everything that Bitcoin could ever buy. And if you own half a Bitcoin, you have 1/42 millionth of that. If you own zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, you have 1/210 millionth of all the purchasing power. With the US dollar, you don't. With the US dollar, if you own $1, you have 1/22 trillionth, not millionth or billionth, trillionth. You have 1/22 trillionth of the purchasing power, and they keep making more dollars. So that number, that 22 trillion, keeps going up and up and up and up. And so that number can go up to infinity. So the people who need Bitcoin are people who are not sitting on a magic money printer and need a way of preserving their purchasing power in a way that the government is not constantly diluting and inflating away your purchasing power. And for example, inflation just came in hot, which means whatever dollars you have that you are storing in US dollars are now becoming less and less valuable, meaning you need Bitcoin. So the people who need Bitcoin are the people that are the farthest away from the magic money printer, not the people who are literally sitting on it. So let's go in order. Who needs Bitcoin the most? The people who need Bitcoin the most are average people who have a net worth below $1 million. Why do I say below $1 million? Because if your net worth is more than $1 million, excluding your house, you're not allowed, for investing in the United States, you're not allowed to count the value or equity in your house in your net worth. So you have to have a $1 million net worth to invest in anything that is not publicly traded on the stock market, or obviously you can buy real estate and stuff like that. So if you have a net worth of more than $1 million, you can invest in private companies. You can invest in deals that are not yet public. The average person can't do that. The average person in America does not have a net worth of above $1 million, excluding their house. So those people need Bitcoin more. The next people who need Bitcoin more are small businesses who have a cash reserve and they need some way of, preserving the purchasing power of their cash. The next people are bigger businesses and, even wealthier people who need a way of preserving purchasing power over time. The people who need Bitcoin the least are the people who are literally sitting on a magic money printer, which is the federal government in the United States. Now, why is that? Because people are like, oh, but they're not going to buy Bitcoin. It's like, seriously, they have the ability to print out of thin air trillions of dollars of US dollars at their whim, and you think they're worried about whether they buy a little bit more Bitcoin now or later. They currently own, Scott Bessent said, somewhere between 15 and $20 billion of Bitcoin. And the U.S. government's Bitcoin is primarily was confiscated from the Silk Road back in 2014, which was a website that was offering nonviolent but illegal stuff. Anyway, and Ross Ulbricht, the person who started it, was pardoned by Donald Trump earlier this year. So he is now out of prison. But anyway, the Bitcoin that the U.S. government owns was confiscated from that website. And so the U.S. government's been selling a bunch of it, but prior to Donald Trump, now they are not selling any of it. And Scott Bessent confirmed that they are not selling any of the Bitcoin they have. But he made an offhand comment about how they're not buying more of it. Now, that doesn't mean they're never buying more Bitcoin. But think about this. Let's assume the government has $20 billion dollars of Bitcoin. If they want $20 billion dollars more Bitcoin, they can buy it today. They can buy it tomorrow. They can buy it a year from now. They can buy it 5 years from now. Because anytime they want more Bitcoin, they can print US dollars out of thin air and buy more Bitcoin with it. Now, if you own US dollars, you're screwed because the dollars they're printing out of thin air are diluting your purchasing power. But if you're sitting on the Bitcoin, then whenever the US government gets around to buying Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin shoots up. So again, who cares if they're buying it now? Who cares if they're buying it later? The thesis of Bitcoin was never built on the fact that the U.S. government's going to buy it. Now, this is similar. The seven highest performing companies on the stock market right now are called the Magnificent Seven, which is Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Tesla. I believe. I think that's the seven. I think I got them all right. Anyway, you should never buy any of those based on one thing they might do. So if you're buying Amazon and you're like, I'm buying Amazon because I think they're about to partner with Microsoft. And then you find out, oh no, they're not going to partner with Microsoft. And you're like, oh no, now it's time to sell the stock. That is stupid investing. You should never invest in something based on the possibility that one thing might happen that is controlled by a small number of people or one person, and that's it. Like, that's a stupid way of investing. You should invest in Amazon because over time, you think the world will buy more stuff online and that you think Amazon will do a better job at winning that business than other companies. You should invest in Microsoft because you think software is a big deal and Microsoft is good at it and will be good at it for a long time. You should invest in Tesla because you think electric vehicles are amazing, which they are, and you think Elon Musk will continue to run circles around everyone with electric vehicles, robotics, self-driving technology for decades to come. That's why you invest in Tesla, not because they might or might not invest or announce some partnership, or they might or might not buy Bitcoin, or they might or might not do any of those things. Same with Nvidia, same with Facebook, same with any of those. So long term, who cares if the government buys Bitcoin and doesn't buy Bitcoin? Now, I've done a video before, probably from, I don't know, 6 months ago, talking about the fact that on balance, between the US government buying more Bitcoin and not buying more Bitcoin, well, let me back up. On balance, I definitely prefer the US government have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I would rather they view Bitcoin as a strategic asset, like I do, in addition, rather than trying to fight it. So I think the fact that there is a strategic Bitcoin reserve is a good thing because it means they're not going to dump the Bitcoin they have, and it means that they are they got some skin in the game, they're on the same page. With regard to acquiring more Bitcoin, yeah, I guess slightly on average, I would prefer they buy more Bitcoin because, again, it reaffirms that it's a strategic asset. It would likely set off a race by other countries to buy more Bitcoin. But you got to realize 90% of the world owns zero Bitcoin. So if the U.S. government starts buying Bitcoin right now, then the price goes way up. And as soon as the price goes way up in Bitcoin right now, that means more than somewhere between 90% and 95% of the world gets left behind because somewhere between 90 and 95% of the world owns zero Bitcoin. And the vast majority of people who own any Bitcoin in the world right now own such a small percentage of it as a percentage of their net worth that it's irrelevant. So even if you answer a survey by saying, yes, I own Bitcoin, and your total net worth is $10,000 or $20,000, but you own $200 of Bitcoin, does it really matter if your $200 of Bitcoin goes to $400, $800, or $1,000 of Bitcoin? It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme if that's a tiny, tiny, tiny part of your total assets. So in a lot of ways, it's better. The longer it takes for the U.S. government to buy Bitcoin, the more time for the masses to adopt Bitcoin, and the more of the Bitcoin that ends up in the hands of average people instead of the people, the fat cats in Washington, D.C. sitting on their big magic Federal Reserve money printer. So anyway, do I care if the U.S. government buys Bitcoin? Not really. What I do care about is, does Bitcoin continue to be the best money in the world? And is it superior to any other money? And will it continue to be so for hundreds or thousands of years into the future? And the answer on that is yes. That is what Bitcoin is doing. And today, literally today, the same time, Scott Bessent is, on CNBC announcing that they're not buying more Bitcoin right now. Um, Jack Dorsey's company Block, which makes the BitKey hardware wallet, which is by far the best way to secure your Bitcoin out of the hands of hackers and scammers, they are announcing a new Bitcoin mining stuff, which does not apply to you or me, but for people that are in the Bitcoin mining industry, which is a very tough industry. You should not invest in it. You should not get involved in it. It is a tough industry to make any money in. There's a bunch of people who do that professionally with massive Bitcoin mining facilities all over Texas and all over the world. They announced brand new Bitcoin mining hardware, brand new software, brand new everything, like literally today, like an hour ago. And it's amazing. The stuff they're doing is incredible, and it'll be transformative to further decentralize Bitcoin mining. So, is the Bitcoin network better today than yesterday? Yes. The announcements today out of Block, the company that makes all this and makes the BitKey device and all of that, are incredible and will make the Bitcoin, network more secure and more decentralized and better for everyone. So that's a huge deal, and that's happening like right now. So more wonderful, amazing things are happening in Bitcoin than not. And in the grand scheme, who cares if it takes the government longer to buy some? Everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve, and apparently the US government deserves a much higher price than today. So, anyway, my advice, which is not financial or investment advice, but my advice as a friend, is the same as always, which is buy as much Bitcoin as you can, sit on it for as long as conceivably possible. And if you're worried that Bitcoin was 123,000 a coin, and you're like, dang it, I should have bought it at 118. Guess what? You can buy it at 118 right now. Right now, 118,000 just for you right now. And guess what? That little dip, it washed out a bunch of stupid people using leverage, borrowed money, and a bunch of insanity. So great. Those people got washed out. They got liquidated. They lost their investment. And now the Bitcoin network has a greater ability to climb higher without a bunch of leverage in it. And the more the price is supported by a bunch of leveraged money, and people that could get liquidated, the harder the price corrections come when they do come, which they always come at some point. You take these little, or medium sized corrections along the way. But a lot of those people got washed out because they were anticipating the price would never go back down after it hit a new all-time high. Who knows? Nobody knows, which is why you don't use borrowed money to buy Bitcoin. Certainly not borrowed money that is leveraged against an asset that can get liquidated, like borrowing. And what these people were doing, who all got wiped out in the last 24 hours, was they were borrowing against their Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. And then they got wiped out and lost their investment. That's why you shouldn't do that. I've done a whole video about whether it makes sense to, finance a vehicle or a house and buy money, buy Bitcoin instead, and then pay the house or the vehicle off slowly. I'm sitting in a 2026 Tesla Model Y that I financed at 6% with Trustmark Bank, because I didn't want to sell most of a Bitcoin to buy it with cash, which is what I otherwise would have done. And my car payments keep getting cheaper. I did this when Bitcoin was at 85,000 a coin, and my last car payment last month was 118,000 a coin. And this, the one coming up in about a week or so, will probably be higher than 118,000 a coin. So that's a steep discount on that car payment of what it would have been if I had locked in the Bitcoin price at 85 instead of 118. But again, that's not the sort of leverage that gets you in trouble the same way. It's borrowing against your Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin, and then the price dips a tiny amount. And especially if you're using leverage of like 40x, which a lot of people were over the last few days, a lot of people were buying Bitcoin with 40x leverage. That means they're trying to get 40 times the return. But that also means if the price moves against you by 2.5%, that you lose all your investment. And so that's what happened. The price was at 123. They were betting 40 to 1 that it would keep going up. It only had to go down 2.5% to get wiped out, and they got liquidated because they were stupid. You shouldn't do that. And thankfully, you kind of can't do that in the United States. The people who are doing that are almost all on weird offshore exchanges and stuff like that. So anyway, everything is amazing in Bitcoin land. Who cares if the US government uses their magic printer to buy Bitcoin today or tomorrow? What matters is Bitcoin scarce? Yes. Is it divisible, durable, portable, verifiable, authenticatable? Is it all of the things that make a great money? And is adoption marching on worldwide every day? And Bitcoin is doing that in spades. So all is good in Bitcoin land. And now you have an opportunity to buy more Bitcoin at 118,000 if you want to. I think you should. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.